Explosions rip the night apart as 3 Japanese destroyers vanish in towering fireballs before they even know Americans are there. Thanksgiving morning, 1943. Captain Arleigh Burke's tin cans charge through the Black Pacific at 31 knots, Mark 15 torpedoes already streaking ahead. One by one, the vaunted long lances never get a chance. In 8 blazing minutes, the Imperial Japanese Navy learns the hard way. The U.S. Navy's destroyers and their torpedoes have just become the deadliest hunters in the Second World War. This is the story most history books never tell you. How American sailors, engineers, and sheer stubborn guts turned a weapon everyone wrote off into the torpedo that broke the back of Japan's long lance legend. We're talking World War II in the Pacific, where U.S. destroyers turn night into day and prove, once and for all, why the Mark 15 outmatches the Type 93 in the only place that matters, the open ocean. Let's go back to the beginning, when the long lance looked unbeatable. The Japanese start cheating on naval treaties the day the ink dries. While America scrapes by in the Great Depression, Japan secretly builds the biggest, fastest, longest-ranging torpedo the world has ever seen. They call it the Type 93, but every Allied sailor who survives one just calls it the Long Lance. 24 inches wide, almost 30 feet long, 3 tons of pure terror. Powered by pure oxygen, it screams across the water at 50 knots for 12 miles or cruises at 36 knots for 24. A warhead bigger than anything we carry, 1,080 pounds of high explosive, and almost no wake to give it away. Japanese cruisers pack 8 tubes each, destroyers 16, and they can reload in minutes. On paper, it's a nightmare with no answer. Meanwhile, the U.S. Navy's Mark 15 looks like the little brother who showed up late. 21 inches, steam-driven, only 15,000 yards at 26 knots or 6,000 at 45. 825-pound warhead. Sounds outclassed, right? And in 1941-42 it is, but not because of the torpedo is bad. It's because the Bureau of Ordnance refuses to test it with live warheads. Budget cuts, peacetime thinking, arrogance, call it what you want. The magnetic exploder fails half the time. Torpedoes run 10 feet deeper than set. Contact exploders crumple on impact and don't go off. American skippers watch perfect shots hit square and just bounce. You think that doesn't burn in a man's gut? Take Lieutenant Commander John D. Bulkeley on PT-41 in the Philippines, early 1942. He fires 10 Mark 18s at a Japanese cruiser at point blank. 9 miss because they're running deep, the 10th hits dead center and clangs off like a dud bell. Bulkeley later tells his crew, "Boys, if those fish ever work, the Japs are in for the surprise of their lives." That promise is coming, but first American boys pay in blood. August 9, 1942. Savo Island. The night the Long Lance announces itself to the world. Admiral Mikawa's cruisers slide down the slot unseen. At 20,000 yards they loose 45 oxygen torpedoes. USS Quincy, Vincennes, Astoria, and HMAS Canberra never know what hits them. Quincy rolls over in 15 minutes, taking 389 men with her. Seaman First Class James Fahey, clinging to a raft in burning oil, writes in the diary they fish out of the water weeks later. "It felt like the whole ocean exploded under us. 1 minute we're at general quarters, next minute the ship's gone. I just kept thinking about Thanksgiving turkey back home." Fahey survives. Hundreds don't. 3 months later, November 13th, Friday the 13th off Guadalcanal. Rear Admiral Callahan's cruisers run into Battleship High. USS Laffey, commanded by Lieutenant Commander William E. Hank, charges straight at High, searchlights blazing, guns firing, and launches 5 Mark 15s at 4,000 yards. Every single one runs deep or duds. High's 14-inch shells tear Laffey apart, but not before Hank's gunners set the battleship on fire. Hank goes down with his ship, last words over the TBS. "We got the big bastard burning, keep it up." High sinks the next morning under American bombs. Even broken torpedoes can't stop American fight. But the tide is turning, slowly, angrily. Out in Hawaii, Rear Admiral Charles Lockwood is mad as hell. He orders real tests, torpedoes fired into cliffs on Kaho'olawe, into fishnets off Oahu. The results are damning: running deep, magnetic exploders useless, pins not driving home. Lockwood bypasses the Bureau, sends urgent dispatches straight to Admiral King. By July 1943, the magnetic exploder is history. Depth settings are fixed. Contact pistons are strengthened. And the Mark 15 wakes up hungry. First proof comes August 7, 1943, Vela Gulf. Commander Frederick Moosbrugger has 6 destroyers and brand-new SG radar. He detects 4 Japanese destroyers at 15 miles, maneuvers unseen, and at 11,000 yards launches 24 Mark 15s. 4 hits. 3 Japanese destroyers, Hajikes, Erasure, Kawakaze, blow apart so fast the 4th never gets a shot off. 0 American losses. Moosbrugger's torpedo officer, Lieutenant Charlie Sims, radios back, "Fish are running hot, straight, and normal tonight, sir." The fleet hears that and cheers like it's VJ Day already. 3 months later, Thanksgiving night, Cape St. George. Arleigh Burke, already nicknamed 31-knot Burke, because he never slows down, takes 5 destroyers after 5 Japanese trying to evacuate flyers from Buka. Radar contact at 22 miles. Burke closes to 5,500 yards, launches 19 torpedoes, turns away. Behind him, Onami and Makinami erupt in secondary explosions so violent the fireballs climb 1,000 feet. Ujiri tries to run. Dyson and Converse chase her down with guns and finish her with 2 more fish. The Japanese fire long lances in panic, all miss. Burke's whole squadron comes home without a scratch. When he reports in, his famous signal reads, 31-knot Burke reports, expended 19 torpedoes, sank 3 destroyers. Request permission to expend the rest on Tokyo. That's not bragging. That's the new reality. American radar sees first. American captains shoot first. And now the Mark 15 hits first, hard, and every single time. The long lance still has range on paper, but it doesn't matter if you never get to use it. And the Japanese know it. Their captains start calling night actions Yazan no Akuma, night battle devils, because whenever American destroyers appear, their ships simply disappear. The oxygen bottles that make the long lance fast also make it fragile. 1 5-inch shell in the wrong place and the whole torpedo mount cooks off, taking the ship with it. We see it happen to cruiser Chokai at Samar, to destroyer Milwaukee after Leyte. The Mark 15 uses wet heater steam and compressed air, safe, reliable, and by late 1944 it's getting turbine upgrades that push it to 50 knots on short sprints. But it's never just about the weapon. It's about the men who trust it. Listen to Torpedo Man Second Class Robert Doyle, USS Spence, writing his girl back in Pittsburgh after Cape St. George. "Honey, tonight we paid those bastards back for every dud, every ship we lost, every buddy who didn't make it home. When those 3 cans blew, I cried like a baby right there on deck. Not ashamed to admit it. We finally got torpedoes that work, and by God we're gonna use every last one to bring every one of us home to you." That's the heart of it. American industry, American engineers, American sailors who refuse to lose. They fix the Mark 15, marry it to radar, and hand it to skippers with ice water in their veins. The Long Lance ruled for 18 months. The Mark 15 rules the rest of the war. And the biggest test of all is coming. October 1944. The Japanese fleet, battleships, cruisers, the super battleship Yamato herself, steams straight for the Leyte beachhead in the greatest naval gamble of the Pacific War. Standing in their way, a handful of jeep carriers and 6 fearless U.S. destroyers carrying nothing but 5-inch guns, guts, and Mark 15 torpedoes that finally, truly work. If those tin cans fail, the entire invasion collapses. Thousands of American boys on the beach will die. The whole Pacific War could turn again. The dawn is 3 hours away, and Destroyer Squadron 54 is already turning toward the rising sun at flank speed. October 25, 1944. The dawn is still the color of a fresh bruise when the pagoda masts rise out of the mist like ghosts no one wanted to see again. For battleships, 6, 8. Then the monster herself, Yamato, 18-inch rifles already swinging toward the little jeep carriers of Taffy 3. Vice Admiral Takeo Kurita's center force has come through San Bernardino Strait in the dark and now, at 0658, opens fire with shells that sound like freight trains tearing the sky apart. Gambier Bay takes the first hit. Whiteley, Kalinan Bay, St. Lo, every flat top in the task unit starts launching planes while still turning east into the wind. They have no armor, no speed, and exactly 7 screening ships to stop the entire Japanese surface fleet. The destroyer men don't hesitate. They never do. Commander Ernest Evans, part Cherokee, All-American, stands on the open bridge of USS Johnston and tells his talker, "Let's get in there and give those bastards something to think about." He spins the wheel hard left, rings up flank speed, and Johnston leaps forward at 36 knots straight into the teeth of Kurita's battleships. At 18,000 yards, farther than any torpedo in the world was supposed to work in 1942, Evans fires all 10 Mark 15s in one perfect spread. 5 thunder home. Heavy cruiser Kumano's bow disintegrates in a pillar of orange fire. She shears out of line, burning, finished for the war. Evans isn't done. His torpedo crews reload in 6 minutes and 40 seconds, a record that will never be broken, and he closes to knife fight range with the rest of the Japanese line, guns blazing, smoke generators belching. Aboard USS Samuel B. Roberts, the destroyer escort men call the destroyer that fought like a battleship. Commander Robert Copeland looks at his executive officer and says the line that becomes legend, "We're making a torpedo run. The outcome is doubtful, but we will do our duty." Roberts carries only 3 fish, but Lieutenant Bill Burton's torpedo gang has drilled until their palms are raw. They fire a half salvo at 5,800 yards into heavy cruiser Chokai. 1 Mark 15 tears open her starboard side, the second finds the long lance mount. The oxygen goes up like the sun coming early. Chokai simply ceases to exist in a roar that rattles teeth on every ship for 5 miles. USS Hirman, Commander Amos Hathaway, charges through the smoke, fires 10 torpedoes, scores on Haguro and Chikuma, then lays a smoke screen so thick the Japanese think an entire fleet is hiding inside it. USS Hull, already mortally wounded, fires her last 5 Mark 15s point-blank into the light cruiser Yahagi before 14-inch shells from Congo turn her into burning wreckage. Her final radio message crackles across the water, "We are expending all ammunition. God bless you all." By 09:15 the impossible has happened. Kurita, convinced he's fighting heavy cruisers and fleet destroyers, blinded by rain squalls and the sheer ferocity of the attack, turns his entire force north. Yamato, the pride of the empire, never fires a single main battery salvo at the Leyte beachhead. 23 Mark 15 hits in less than 2 hours have crippled or sunk 5 heavy cruisers, 2 light cruisers, and forced the most powerful surface fleet on Earth to run for its life. Torpedo Man First Class Jack Hewson, floating in the water after Johnston finally goes down, is picked up 50 hours later still clutching the brass firing key from Mount 53. When they wrap him in a blanket on the rescue destroyer, he looks up and says, voice hoarse from swallowing oil, "Tell Newport the son of a bitch finally worked." They pin the Navy Cross on him before the morphine even kicks in. 3 days later, October 28, the last great surface action of the war plays out in Surigao Strait. Vice Admiral Jesse Oldendorf sets the perfect trap. PT boats, then destroyers, then battleships in a line across the strait like a steel wall. Japanese Vice Admiral Shoji Nishimura steams straight into it with battleships Fuso and Yamashiro. American destroyers strike first. Desron 54, Desron 56, and Des-Div X-ray launch 47 Mark 15s down the narrow waters. 27 hits. Fuso breaks in half and sinks in minutes. Yamashiro absorbs hit after hit, still coming, until West Virginia, Mississippi, and the rest of the battle line cross the T and finish her with 16-inch armor-piercing shells. The Long Lance never gets a chance. The southern force of the Japanese Navy is annihilated for the loss of 1 PT boat. From Samar to Surigao, the Mark 15 owns the night. Every major surface engagement from late 1944 on ends the same way. Japanese ships burning, American destroyers steaming home to rearm. The oxygen torpedo that once ruled Iron Bottom Sound becomes a liability. Too many Japanese ships die from their own long lances cooking off when a single 5-inch shell finds the mount. And the men keep writing home. Seaman Robert Doyle, USS Spence, after Cape St. George, we paid them back tonight, honey. Every dud, every buddy we lost, every night we wondered if the fish would run true. They ran true. Tell Mom I'm coming home with salt in my hair and fire in my heart. By VJ Day the scoreboard is merciless. Mark 15 torpedoes fired in anger. Over 14,000. Confirmed hits. Better than 1 in 3 in 1945. Ships sunk or crippled. More than 300 Japanese combatants. Long lance hits after mid-1943. You can count the meaningful ones on 2 hands. American factories turned out a new torpedo every 8 minutes by 1945. Japan couldn't replace the pure oxygen plants we bombed into rubble. The Long Lance was a brilliant, desperate gamble built by a nation that thought one perfect strike could win a war. The Mark 15 was an American story. Flawed, cursed, kicked around, doubted, and then fixed by engineers who worked nights and sailors who refused to lose. It wasn't the longest range or the fastest on paper. It was simply the one that worked every single time you needed it to. So when somebody tells you the Japanese had the best torpedo of the Second World War, just smile and remember a cold dawn off Samar. Remember Ernest Evans standing on a burning bridge with his hat on fire, grinning like it's the 4th of July. Remember little Samuel B. Roberts punching above her weight until the ocean took her. Remember Arleigh Burke on Thanksgiving night, torpedoes gone, signaling, request permission to expend the rest on Tokyo. Because that's who we were. That's who we are. And that, America, is why the Mark 15 didn't just match the Long Lance. It ended it. But the war still has one last cruel twist. August 1945. The surrender is signed, but a handful of die-hard Japanese officers refuse to believe it. Off Okinawa, destroyer USS Callahan steams on picket duty, the last tin can still hunting kamikazes. On the night of July 28, a single biplane slips through the radar net, drops out of the clouds, and crashes straight into Callahan's starboard side. The bomb it carries tears the ship in half. She is the last American destroyer sunk in World War II, 48 hours before peace officially begins. As the survivors float in the warm Pacific waiting for rescue, machinist mate second class Tony DeLuca looks at the burning wreckage and says the line that closes the book on 5 years of tin can sailors. We gave 'em hell, boys. Every damn inch of it. And somewhere, Ernest Evans, Arleigh Burke, Robert Copeland, and every destroyerman who ever trusted a Mark 15 to bring him home, they're smiling. Because the torpedoes worked. Because America worked. And because the kids in tin cans never, ever quit.